Due to the graphic nature of this program, viewer discretion is advised.
Able, we're 97 overhead. The video camera is running.
Able, can you go ahead and call it?
I screwed up there. I don't see him, though.
There he goes. He's trying to run on me now. Okay, Rick! Give me an ambulance down here.
It is just crazy. I just can't believe it. Very, very serious collision.
Oh, he was moving pretty good.
Taking him down now, units, stay off the air.
Tonight you will see footage that is shot in actual pursuits.
He's running.
Get on the ground!
Including footage never seen on television before.
I didn't want nobody to get hurt. I panicked.
This is the real thing. There are no recreations.
You can't get away. You cannot get away.
Speed is 90 to 100.
These heart-pounding chases are filmed from cameras installed in the pursuing officers' cars, as well as police and news helicopters on the scene.
Shots fired.
Some of the footage you see will be alarming. It is meant to be a warning.
Oh, my God.
You'll see the fastest and the most dangerous pursuits, as well as some of the most bizarre and unusual chases ever captured on film. Fasten your seatbelts. This is the ride of a lifetime that may just save your life.
Captain C.W. Jensen. I've been a cop for 19 years. I hope this program is going to be an eye-opener for you. I hope that you get to see what I've seen, the tragedy, the hurt that comes when people run from the police. Every pursuit starts out with an unknown ending. You're going to start to sweat, you're going to breathe hard, your heart's going to be pounding, your ears going to be ringing. All those things happen. You can't help it.
Garland, Texas. Pursuit of a robbery suspect armed with a shotgun.
Dallas police began the pursuit. Texas DPS has now taken the lead.
This is exactly the type of heart-pounding chase that cops hate. Heavy traffic and a desperate suspect.
I have seen him at times up to 90 miles an hour. He's on the inside lane, which is fortunate for the rest of the driving traffic.
This man is willing to take any risk, suddenly pulling off the road and then pulling back into oncoming traffic.
As he was passing, he had a lot of stuff in the back of his truck, and stuff was flying out, and I can see that the troopers were very cautious how they approached the truck.
The police are trying to get the entrances to the freeway closed.
So they are getting ahead of at some of the on-ramps here and stopping the flow of traffic. But obviously, you can't stop every car at this time of the afternoon, 2:30 in the afternoon.
Watch what happens as he tries to weave through the heavy traffic to get ahead of the police.
Yeah, Sean, we're hearing now that the Garland Police Department is involved in the chase also. And it looks like they've taken up positions behind the Texas DPS. Oh, there he goes. There he goes. Oh, it's turned over. The truck just crashed.
He misjudged by inches, clipped the left bumper on the truck, and never regained control. The police aren't taking any chances.
That's the vehicle, Texas DPS coming out with guns drawn. They've surrounded the vehicle, and they're waiting to see if there's any movement from inside the vehicle.
But the driver was unconscious, and everyone involved was still in shock.
He was in the lane, passed me in the lane right next to me, and cut across over in the fast lane. He was moving pretty good. Oh yeah. I mean, he was blowing traffic away.
It took 45 minutes to get the man out of the truck and get traffic moving again. And he was on the way to the hospital. As Captain Jensen said, nobody knows for sure how a pursuit will end, but there are three strong possibilities. You may, like this man, go to the hospital, or you may go to jail, or you may not be so lucky.
Give me an ambulance down here. Give me an ambulance.
If you're ever tempted to run, take 1 second to think about the consequences and who pays the price. Because if you run fast enough, and if it all goes right, you might just get away. But who picks up the pieces when it all goes wrong?
He launched the stolen Corvette at 165 miles per hour, thinking he could elude the police, and never for a second imagining the jolting climax he was racing toward. The law closes in on him, but still he speeds on in his reckless attempt to escape its inevitable grip. It's a good thing there's no traffic right now, or innocent people might have their vehicles damaged, or far worse. As one police car is joined by another, he becomes even more desperate, pushing his Corvette far beyond his ability to control it. Seeing danger looming ahead in the form of a convoy of 18-wheelers, he begins to swerve. Sensing the inevitable, the police drop back, but it's already too late. He swerves to avoid two big rigs and loses his last ounce of control over his doomed vehicle. Thrown free from what little is left of his car, he rolls to a stop on the desert floor. Traffic grinds to a halt, drivers preparing for the worst. An eerie silence descends on the scene as everyone stares in disbelief at the twisted metal. Not knowing if he's alive or dead, the police approach him carefully with guns drawn. The driver lies motionless on the scorched sand. Carefully inspecting him, they see that he is indeed alive despite his reckless disregard of the law. For him, today ends miraculously in handcuffs instead of a coffin. The twisted remains of his high-performance vehicle rests as a gruesome memorial to the driver's disregard of society's rules. Surveying the terrible results of this crash, the lawmen wonder how anyone survived it. Handcuffed and hurting, the once confident driver begins to realize the awful results of his recklessness. The calm of a peaceful English countryside is about to be shattered by yet another criminal who believes his ability to evade the law is stronger than the law's determination to pursue him. He's already stolen the red sports car from its owner. Now he has to get it back to where he and his criminal cohorts can alter the vehicle beyond recognition. Speeding recklessly up the highway, he whips back and forth from lane to lane and speeds unslowed through intersections. Now, as he encounters more traffic, he must become even more daring, cutting in and out among other cars and even creating a third lane. Remember, in England you drive on the left side of the road, but anywhere in the world this criminal represents 2,000 pounds of disaster waiting to happen. Now begins the inevitable end of the chase. As he speeds up, he must swerve around a truck and avoid an oncoming car at an intersection. As the traffic increases, so do the risks as he overtakes yet another car at a roundabout. Now, as he reaches what appears to be open road, he speeds up in hopes of reaching his destination. Ever more confident, he races ahead, oblivious to the danger that awaits him in just a few short seconds. The seemingly open road is a siren's call to this man, luring him to ever greater speeds. As he tries to pass, he misjudges speed and distance, demolishing his stolen car on the rear end of this slow-moving truck. Notice that the impact is so severe that it whips the front of his car around so that he hits the truck a second time. Stunned, both he and the driver of the truck remain in their damaged vehicles. When he stole this car and careened down the motorway, did he have any idea of the violence with which his misadventures would end? Now the driver gets out and comes around to find out exactly what happened. Peering into the car, he checks the condition of the thief who so casually risked the lives of others. Other cars squeeze by, seemingly oblivious to the drama that surrounds them, as the truck driver continues to offer help. At last, police arrive to take charge of this senseless scene. What you are about to see is something that only a few people ever witness, and they're almost always dressed in blue. But thanks to this camera, mounted on a police car's dashboard, you'll sit right next to the police officer on this high-speed chase. So fasten your seatbelt and get ready for another of the world's scariest police chases. The driver of the white pickup truck, a suspect in a Warren, Michigan bank robbery, decides that he can outrun the law. Moving to the shoulder of the road, he picks up speed as the police officer follows, desperately trying not to put any innocent lives in jeopardy. Weaving back and forth across 3 lanes of the freeway, he still thinks he can outrun a law enforcement officer. Now he exits the freeway, gunning his way up and off it, oblivious to what might be at the top. Confronted with traffic, he simply squeezes between the cars and makes an illegal right turn onto a busy street. A few hundred yards, and it's right again, this time into an alley. He briefly loses control as he runs over a curb. Regaining control, he speeds down a street in this quiet residential area. Still, he thinks he can outrun the law. Unfamiliar with the territory, he turns into what would prove to be a cul-de-sac. When cornered, he simply swerves out from the police car's blockade and escapes again. Re-entering the main street, he is met by 2 more patrol cars. As they try to force him to stop, he runs another car off the road. Still, he speeds on, as he travels at more than 60 miles per hour. Running a yellow light, he picks up speed as he makes a mad dash toward the freeway. Now he re-enters the freeway, with the 3 police cars still in hot pursuit. Amazingly, he speeds up yet again, and for half a mile or so seems to be putting distance between himself and the pursuing officers. He truly believes he can escape. But the police close the gap and try to box him in. Somehow, once again, he escapes their grasp. Accelerating to an even greater speed, he evades both traffic and the police as he heads toward the open road. Now, this policeman, through whose eyes you see this reckless criminal, takes the lead in the chase. Notice the squad car pulling onto the freeway to your right. But again, the police lose ground, as they must hold to a speed that does not endanger the lives of innocent drivers. For reasons known only to himself, he leaves the freeway. This time, the police officer can safely move in on him, sideswiping his vehicle and boxing him in. Now, he's stopped for good. Ironically, it's right below a no parking sign. The police officers leave their cars and cautiously approach the vehicle and its driver, their guns drawn. Policemen never know when a routine traffic stop will result in a high-speed chase that finds them pitted against a desperate criminal who will do anything, including risking his life as well as their lives, to escape. And they know better than anyone that when they corner him, they may be met with more violence, because a fleeing felon responds like a wounded animal when he's cornered. Yet still, they must always remember that in the United States of America, even vicious criminals have the right to arraignment and representation at a fair trial. The arresting officer reads this suspect his Miranda rights, telling him, among other things, that he has the right to remain silent, and that anything he says can and will be used against him in court. But this man knows all this, because, as it turns out, he's a cop. At last, he emerges. But despite having his hands cuffed behind his back, he continues to resist. Even though he's surrounded by police, he refuses to cooperate. Now they push, pull, and drag him into the squad car for a ride that will be far less thrilling than his last one.
Callahan County, Texas.
There you go.
Here's an angry 16-year-old driver who thought he could outrun the law. Incredibly, the teenage driver survived with a broken back. San Diego, California. Here we get a chance to see a high-speed pursuit from inside a San Diego police helicopter.
We're involved in a chase, trying to catch up to it. And he is high speed. 42, George, we're in position.
This chase began when the police spotted a suspicious car near a local high school.
And this guy's very 505, passing all kinds of people on the wrong side of the road. He's hauling.
This is the actual police radio transmission. Notice the helicopter pilot's reaction as the suspect hits a van on this narrow road.
Holy smokes! Man, this guy is driving like a total idiot.
In San Diego, they have a problem most cities don't. The suspect knows that if he can get across the border into Mexico, police can't follow him.
He's going towards the border, and he's outrunning me. Speed is about 90 to 100. He's taking the last U.S. exit. He's going to run. If he runs, Kevin, I'm going to put this thing down. He's going over I-5 westbound on Dairy Mart. Holy, he almost hit that construction guy. He's going to bail and go over the fence. I know. He's going to run across the fence here. Yeah, he's going to Mexico. Hang on, watch the cranes. I got the cranes. But the trees are going to get me in the way here. I'm climbing.
Before they could land, the suspect got over the fence and across the border.
Okay, Abel, he is in Mexico. Hispanic male, white t-shirt, black pants, white tennis shoes.
This is one of those times the bad guy got away, but he left something behind.
For Able advisor, he is across the border going into Mexico.
Hidden in the undercarriage of the car, they found 3 pounds of cocaine with a street value of $150,000. His drug-dealing friends in Mexico may make him wish that he'd been caught in the USA. Coming up on World's Scariest Police Chases. Top speed, red line, pedal to the metal. The world's fastest pursuits. And the most unusual chases ever caught on tape. A runaway tank terrorizes a town.
This guy is crazy.
Speed, the ultimate thrill, the American dream. For the love of speed, we've built faster machines and better roads. But when you combine speed with desperation, you get the world's fastest pursuits.
Because of the adrenaline dump, it becomes a very exciting event. You become challenged. This is what's called in many circles contempt of cop. This person running from you has disobeyed you, and you're going to go get him.
Tampa, Florida. Pursuit of teenagers in a stolen car. This has to be one of the briefest pursuits in history. From the time these teenagers first see the police, decide to make a run for it, hop the curb, hit the tree, careen back onto the road, lurch once more into the park, and finally stall out in less than a minute. We're now in Phoenix, Arizona, where the pursuit of a stolen pickup truck turns into a tragedy. This brand new truck was stolen from in front of a convenience store less than 20 minutes before.
Okay, now this person's more or less boxed in, but look at that. Cut right into him. This person seems bent on a rather suicidal path. Very heavy traffic, slowing this fellow down somewhat. They keep on taking the center lane.
The high-powered truck has managed to stay well ahead of the police.
Cruiser coming up ahead has the road partially blocked, going right through that intersection into a residential neighborhood now here on the west side of town, and on the smaller two-lane residential. It is just crazy. I just can't believe it. We've had a very, very serious collision down below us here. The worst-case scenario has, in fact, happened.
Incredibly, the driver of the truck is ejected from the cab and thrown clear of the wreck as it shatters around him. Amazingly, he avoids being crushed as the truck rolls over and over. Dazed from the crash, he staggers to his feet and once more tries to get away. But this time, he doesn't get far. Miraculously, the driver of the other car survived. People who run from the law all have one thing in common. At some point, they all think they can get away. Minneapolis, Minnesota, a dangerous, high-speed pursuit of a fleeing bank robber.
It's a bank robbery party. Is armed cell phone from Highway 5 now.
As smart as we try to be, as innovative as we try to be, there are some times when these situations will conclude with deadly force.
This is a case where the bank robber is believed to be firing at the police. The police decide to shoot out his tires.
We want to pull up behind him in a clear spot. We're going to take his tires now with a shotgun.
An officer with a shotgun takes aim behind the fleeing car.
Shots fired. Shots fired. Valley Creek Road. Shots fired. I believe the suspect vehicle is smoking. I hear his own.
Officers will use deadly force when that moment comes, when they realize that they must do it to protect the life of someone else.
The driver still refuses to surrender. When all else fails, the officers are ordered to force the vehicle off the road.
Bank robbery is a very serious crime. When officers are being shot at, it's a natural instinct to shoot back. And I don't have a problem with that if you're not putting the public at risk.
Yeah, be advised, I got a signal 19. He's doing well over 90 now. He's not stopping.
Albuquerque, New Mexico. Pursuit of armed suspects. Here's a situation where the bad guys had a souped-up car that was much faster than the patrol cars. Unable to stop the suspects in the stolen car, the officer asked for assistance from the truckers up ahead.
Any 18-wheelers monitoring the CB channel, there's a deputy sheriff. We're pursuing southbound of a red vehicle. We need some assistance here.
Fortunately, one of the truckers is an ex-deputy sheriff from Alabama.
Officer, on to your lights now. Is that the little red car coming up behind you there? He's coming right behind you now, coming up on your left. High rate of speed. Oh yeah, I got him coming up here now. Move it over.
Racing down the center divider, the suspects try to accelerate past the truck. Barely missing another police car, the suspects pull back onto the road. Now it's getting deadly. What happened next surprised everyone. Realizing they would never get past the truck and might actually die trying, these two desperate suspects finally just gave up. Thanks to a helpful trucker. More to come on World's Scariest Police Chases. A maniac in a tank.
Yeah, he's rolling over just about anything he wants to.
Pursuit and consequences. The people who run and the price they pay. If you're ever tempted to run, take 1 second to think about the consequences and who pays the price. Because if you run fast enough, and if it all goes right, you might just get away. But who picks up the pieces when it all goes wrong?
What scares police officers is to be chasing a bad guy and to have that bad guy smash into a car that 30 seconds earlier was just somebody going to the 7-Eleven to get a quart of milk. That's what scares cops.
Atlanta, Georgia. Here we see the all-too-frequent tragedy of a driver who thinks he can outrun the police.
Okay, he's not stopping, Atlanta. Okay, I'm getting him over an emergency light. Okay, he's trying to run on me now. He's getting off on the loop.
This is a police officer's nightmare. This driver has passed the officer. Thinks if he goes just a little faster, maybe he can get away.
Give me an ambulance, Atlanta!
The fleeing truck is struck by one car, lifted in the air, and then struck broadside by another. What you're about to see now is a grisly story of one man's crime and punishment. This pursuit began as a robbery in a suburb of Denver, Colorado. The teller in the bank recognized this man, Philip Hutchinson. As soon as the bank robber left, the teller called the police, and the chase was on.
All officers, 4593, a white over brown Blazer.
A news helicopter watched as the thief raced through suburban streets trying to elude the police.
Adams County, it's reportedly Adam William Tom 271.
Attempts to stop him turned into a deadly game of chicken. One officer couldn't get out of the way in time. As the helicopter pilot watched in horror, the suspect hit the officer, killing him instantly. Hutchinson never slowed down.
We got an officer down here, and we need an ambulance.
But moments later, he lost control of his vehicle coming out of a turn and smashed into a tree. Taking the money and the gun, he ran through empty yards looking for another vehicle, trying to stay ahead of the police.
He's out of the car.
Because of radio difficulty, the helicopter pilot was unable to tell anyone exactly where the suspect was. In a nearby parking lot, the bank robber spotted a young woman in a car with her baby. He tried to force his way into her car. Infuriated when the woman would not stop, he pulled out the gun and began to fire.
Well, when he first came up and opened my door, the thing I was thinking, he's going to be in my car. Where are we going to go? What are we going to do? What's going to happen? Is he going to kill me? And that's whenever I've never seen a man with a gun put his hand on my child, and that's whenever I realized, and I took off. Thought he shot my baby for some reason, because the door's open, I hear a gunshot, and I thought for sure he had shot him. I thought I was dead.
Within moments, he had found another hostage, forcing a 73-year-old man to drive him out of town.
Boy, I said, this is it, John. I don't think you'll see tomorrow. He told me that I was a dead man if I didn't hurry and start that car.
He told the man he would kill him if he made any attempt to signal the police. The police finally come to where the helicopter is hovering, but the suspect hides on the floor of the truck, and all the police see is an old man driving slowly down the street.
While I'm climbing up, I bring the power in the helicopter to start climbing up, and the police cars drive past him. And Jim and I start screaming, what? And that's when I decided I needed to do something else. I had what's called a window of opportunity, which was maybe 10 seconds. I had to do it now, or it was history.
The pilot realized that if the truck got to the main road, this man would probably kill the hostage. At that point, he dropped the helicopter in front of the fleeing truck.
Then that helicopter is on the ground, right in front of me. I can't move nowhere. And he told me, ram it. Ram it. And that blade was going around and everything, and I said, oh my God, we're going to get cut in pieces or something's going to happen to us. Then pretty soon, bang, 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 bang. Oh God, my.
The helicopter was able to block the truck while the police came up from behind. The suspect pointed his gun at the police and then tried one final time to kill the hostage. But in the midst of all this shooting, one officer was able to pull the elderly man out of the truck, thus saving his life.
When the officer decides to pursue, I think the thought process is the same as if he or she is going to shoot or not to shoot. And the end result could be as serious, if not more so, because this is the same as a 2,000-pound bullet.
Here we are in Coronado Beach, California, with a typical and tragic example of a pursuit in which the person ran simply because they were being stopped for a ticket.
Okay, Abel, can you go ahead and call it?
Abel, we're 97 overhead.
Some people run thinking this is a game between them and the police. But to innocent bystanders, it isn't a game.
Okay, he just 1183 at the next intersection. Keep going. Okay, he is bailed out. He is running.
Tragically, what the driver didn't realize was that an innocent bystander was sitting here, waiting for a bus. Miraculously, the bystander survived. Wayside Prison, Valencia, California. This man lost everything because of a joyride that led to a pursuit in which he hit a police officer.
I just had a crazy thought. I said, well, I could take this truck for a ride. And I jumped in, and I took off.
He was sentenced to a mandatory third strike, 50 years to life.
I didn't want nobody to get hurt. All I wanted to do was get away. Unfortunately, somebody did get hurt, and that person has to live with it. We both have to live with it.
Coming up, more action.
Big trouble. Yeah, that's more than my way.
On world's scariest police chase.
We just heard a crunching noise, crunch, crunch, crunch.
A suspect gets away. A woman falls out of her own car. Some pursuits are frightening, some are reckless, and some are just plain bizarre. These are some of the strange and unusual things that happen when people run from the law.
Oh my God.
Inglewood, California. When it comes to bizarre chases, the police are still puzzled by this one. An officer saw the man and woman inside this car having an argument. But when the officer tried to stop the vehicle, the driver roared away without giving the woman a chance to close her door. Then, when the driver executed this unusual U-turn, both the passenger and the driver fell out of the car.
Get on the ground!
Ma'am, are you okay?
Even then, the officer couldn't get this man's attention.
I told you, get on the ground now! Get on the ground! Officer, she's been beat. Get on the ground now! This don't make no sense.
Well, that's an example of why people will run, because they're arguing. There's no reason for them to run, but they run. They're obviously not buckled in with safety belts. The door flies open and they fall out. Fortunately, no one was hurt, and fortunately it ended up reasonably well, although I'm not sure where the car went after they fell out.
Sylmar, California. This suspect was ahead of the police until he made one slight error. But when someone really wants to get away, they don't let one little mistake slow them down. Watch what happens now. Incredibly, the man survived.
Stand by. Okay, he is on foot now. Foot pursuit. He is running now.
Clarkston, Michigan. One of our most unusual pursuits began when this officer stopped a drunk driver. The camera mounted on the dashboard of his car is running as he takes the intoxicated woman into custody. The officer handcuffs the woman with her hands behind her back and places her in the back seat of the squad car. But watch what happens when his back is turned. With the camera still rolling, the woman somehow gets into the driver's seat, gets her handcuffed hands in front of her, and roars off drunkenly down the road. Driving at speeds over 100 miles an hour, the handcuffed woman finally loses control, goes into a spin, and stalls in the middle of the highway, where the police find her moments later. The police car was not damaged. This was fortunate because the Clarkston Police Department only has 2 cars.
Nobody kisses their wife or their husband goodbye to go to work and say, honey, I hope I get in a pursuit tonight.
Next on World's Scariest Police Chases.
Get out of the street and go back in your house. You're in danger.
A day of terror. A tank on the rampage, and there was nothing the police could do.
We're running out the front door, and there's a tank coming down the street. And just as I got out of the driveway, he ran over my truck.
San Diego, California. Pursuit of a stolen military vehicle. For sheer terror, nothing has surpassed the day this city was held hostage by a deranged man who went on a rampage with a 100,000-pound tank.
I'll call it the best I can. I'm trying to get this whole mess on videotape. This guy's in big trouble. Yeah, that's putting it mildly.
The police were able to find out that this man had armored vehicle training and had stolen this tank from a local armory. He was also known to have a history of emotional problems.
When I first heard it, I thought it was a joke.
This is bad. He's running over fire hydrants. You got hydrants that are blowing water in the air. Get your loudspeaker on, please. This is the San Diego Police Department. Everybody go back in your house and get off the street. He's doing these cars on purpose.
We heard the rumbling sound, and I saw a tank coming down the street. Thought it was a drill or something.
There's cars that are following him, and I have no idea why. Oh, my God. Holy. Yeah, he's rolling over just about anything he wants to.
I was in the locker room at the end of my shift, and I heard the call come out on the radio, so I went back and got my patrol car and headed through the area.
This is the San Diego Police Department. Get out of the street and go back in your house. You're in danger.
See if we have any SWAT equipment that can help us out with this thing.
He was coming, we just heard a crunching noise. Crunch, crunch, crunch.
It was during that time of day where people are getting off work or out of school.
He's coming up towards the school.
Okay, 10-4.
It was a lot of people here. A lot of them were just in shock.
I didn't think they would ever going to stop him unless he ran out of gas.
Somebody get a hold of the armory and find out if this thing is loaded.
The gun, he was, it was circling while he was driving, so we thought maybe he was taking aim at something, to fire it.
The front door, and there's a tank coming down the street. That palm tree is on the front of the tank, and just as I got out of the driveway, he ran over my truck. He took out the telephone poles over there, and he headed down the street and ran over that blue car right there, and then he went back and he ran over the fire hydrant and just kept on going.
This is like a war zone over here.
And I know he hit one occupied vehicle with a family in it. They just barely escaped before the car was crushed.
He hit the pole, dropped them like they were toothpicks. It just snapped them down on the ground.
Traffic out of harm's way. This is the worst thing I think. It looks like he's going to go westbound. Get out of the way. Get out of the street. You're in danger. This is the San Diego Police Department. Police cars ain't going through that.
What kind of a person is inside this tank?
What I was told was he had served in the Army as a tank crewman, so he definitely had tank experience. He had the same school that I had gone to.
When I got behind him, just before he got on the 805 southbound freeway, he had tried to run over a couple of police cars that got in his way or that he could see and maneuver to, and it was still going at a good 60-mile-an-hour clip up the freeway. They called our SWAT guys to see if they had anything in their arsenal that could stop him.
They do not have the ability. They do not. That's do not.
They called the National Guard Armory to see what they could do to stop it. Those weren't viable options because the Armory was miles away by that time.
The tank comes equipped with a what they call a nuclear, biological, chemical warfare system in it, which means he has fresh air to breathe, so if we used any chemical agents, they'd have no effect.
At this point, the man in the tank fell back on his military training. He decided to cut off his pursuers by putting a barrier between himself and the police. How? Knock down a bridge across the freeway.
He's going to try and take a bridge out.
Okay, get a bridge out. Which bridge?
Abel, it's a pedestrian bridge.
When he got on the freeway, he made an abrupt right turn, and he struck one of the support pillars that hold up this pedestrian footbridge. My concern was he was trying to collapse the bridge to prevent us from following him. Well, after a while, he gave up on trying to knock this pole out.
Police car, better move.
And he continued on south. One of my concerns was that he may have live ammunition on board. He might make a stand and start fighting. At this point, it looked like he's trying to maneuver the tank into the oncoming traffic, and if he had done that, we would have had a major chain reaction accident.
Oh my God. Abel, he's on 805 just north of Genesee. Well, we're doing that as we speak. They're trying to get the hatch open right now.
The police knew that the gravest danger still lay ahead. They didn't have time to stop traffic coming down the opposite lanes of the freeway. If this man got the tank free and into those traffic lanes, the results would be horrible.
I used the bolt cutters and cut the hasp on the bolt, twisted the lock off, and opened up the hatch. At that point, we could look down in and we could see the driver. He never answered us. He looked back and he made eye contact with Paul, so he knew we were there, and he could see both Paul and I through the hatch.
Right now, he's trying to come undone, and the pavement underneath him is breaking up. It's possible if he keeps jerking this thing side to side, he might be able to break that pavement loose and roll again.
The tank had to be stopped right now, and the driver had to be stopped, and Paul had to get in there and take control of the tank. So I fired one round, and it struck him on the shoulder and traveled diagonally down through his body, and it was an immediate fatal wound. Had he not become high center on the center divide, I have no idea what would have happened. I know the people on the other side of the freeway would have been hurt or killed because there wasn't room for that tank and all those cars over there.
A bizarre and terrible reminder of just how powerless we are. When we come back with World's Scariest Police Chases, a frightening pursuit on Easter Sunday morning, and two officers are an inspiration to us all. As long as they think they can get away, some will run and some will crash and burn. But when people criticize the police and their pursuit policies, they might consider this officer, who ended a high-speed pursuit by risking his own life to rescue a fleeing suspect from certain death in a burning car. Luckily, he and his partner were able to pull the driver to safety just seconds before the gas tank exploded. This man owes his life to cops who truly believe they are there to protect and serve.